Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. And in this video I would like to discuss about uh, a topic in geometry that's called parallel lines and transversal, and it's a really good topic to build your foundation for more advanced geometry that you will encounter in higher grades. So just a quick disclaimer before starting everything. This video is going to be in English most of the time. So all of the viewers who speak vernacular languages, please bear with me uh, as I talk in English and discuss the content. I'll however try to uh, say out some key terms in the consequent vernacular language, in this case Marathi, to you whenever it is the right time. So with that being said, let's get started. So the topic that we are going to discuss today is parallel lines and transversals, which I'll just translate briefly into vernacular language is samantar samantar resha व छेदिका. Okay, so before we go on to the more important properties of this topic, I would just like to tell you what parallel lines are. So parallel lines or samantar resha are lines. Parallel lines are lines that can never meet, or if you want to think in more mathematical terms, they meet at infinity, which in practical terms is never. So consider M and N to be two parallel lines, and although my drawing may not be 100% accurate, but this is enough to drive home the point. So if M and N can be considered to be two parallel lines, if you keep on extending them till infinity, and since they are lines, they will extend till infinity. Notice the arrowheads that we have here. So if we extend them till infinity, they will just keep on going their own way. They will never crisscross, or they'll never meet like this. So that's what parallel lines are. Essentially, it's really simple. Now what a transversal is, or a chedika, what it does is basically cuts two lines. They might be parallel, they might not be parallel. A transversal cuts two lines. Here the lines are parallel. You can have like non-parallel lines, something like this. Uh, and clearly these two lines are not parallel. So you can have something like this, or like in the figure that I have shown, something like this. Line L in the figure is a transversal, because in English transversing is basically bypassing in a way. So it's cutting, or you can say bypassing both of these lines. That's why it's a transversal. Okay, so that's the basic terms that you need to know. And beyond this, there are more terms in terms of types of angles or pairs of angles that we need to discuss. Now, keeping the same diagram, I would like to discuss about some pairs of angles. Angles being cone, if I'm not wrong. So now consider this angle and consider this angle. both of them are called corresponding angles. Corresponding angles, and I think the vernacular term for this is so I believe the vernacular term for this is Sangat Kon. Okay, so this is just one pair. There can be many. So, and I'll give you a quick intuition how to identify the pairs. So if you take this angle, you need to start with one angle. If you take this angle, and you consider this a floor of a building. So say this is floor 1, and this is like the ground floor of the building. So it's like jumping from floor 1 to the ground floor. You end up on the surface of the ground floor, right? You end up subtending an angle like this. So these jumps from one floor to another, if two angles are related like that, so if you basically make this angle jump to a ground floor, it becomes this angle. Or if you take this angle and make it jump to a higher floor, these jumps from floor to floor, jumps from floor to floor, if two angles are related in this way, then they are corresponding angles or Sangat Kon. And this is just one example. You can have these lower angles to be Sangat Kon also. So consider this angle, and let me use different notation, something like this is squiggly line for this lower angle. If this is one angle, then the corresponding angle to this is, now make it jump from under floor 1 to underground floor, because that's just another jump from one floor to another. So it will be this angle. Or if you want to look at this part, say this curvy angle has its corresponding angle to be this other curvy angle, which is under this second line. I know this diagram is too messy, but let's try to see what corresponding pairs there are in this figure. So let me just erase this off quickly. Now in this figure, the main figure that we've drawn, notice the corresponding angles. So if you take one, you need to start with one angle. So if you take one, then the corresponding angle to 1 is, if you make a jump from the first floor, M is the first floor, say floor 1, N is say floor 0 or the ground floor. If you jump from floor 1 to floor 0, you end up with 5, right? So 1 and 5 are indeed corresponding angles. Okay, let's look at 2 now. What's the corresponding angle of 2? Well, again, make a jump from floor 1 to 0. You end up at 6. So 2 and 6 are corresponding angles. Okay, now what about the underside of them? 3. So if you take 3, which is under floor 1, again you have to jump one floor. So you don't end up on top because you started from under. You end up at under floor 0. So 3 and 7 are going to be corresponding angles. And if you look at 4, and similarly 4 and 8 are going to be corresponding pairs of angles. So this is what corresponding angles look like basically, and this is a really important property because this is I believe to be one of the most important properties. So it will be great if you remember these terminologies and use them, because it will be helpful later in exercises and examples. Okay, so now after doing corresponding angles, we move to what's called interior angles. So interior angles are basically, as the name suggests, those angles that are enclosed within lines M and N. So basically whatever is enclosed in this area, all the angles enclosed within this rectangular M and N are called interior angles. So if you look closely, 3, angle 4, angle 5 and angle 6 all are interior angles simply because they are enclosed within this area. And if you want a vernacular translation of this, interior angles are antarkon. So interior angles is way simpler compared to corresponding angles. So it will be great to know this. Now we move to exterior angles, and this idea is similar to interior angles, but it's actually the opposite of it. So angles that are outside this enclosed area of M and N. So outside the enclosed area of lines M and N. So angles which are outside this shaded region, basically if you look at the figure 1, 2, 7 and 8. So angles 1, 2, 7 and 8 are exterior angles just because they are outside this enclosed shaded region between M and N. Which is basically angles that are not interior become exterior by default. And just for consistency, the vernacular of this is Bahir cone. Exterior angles. Okay, fine. Now it's actually time to move on to what we call alternate angles. Okay, so now we move on to what are called alternate angles. And for vernacular purposes, these are Vyutkram cone. And these are basically those angles which lie on either side. So if you consider 3, then the alternate angle of 3 is basically lying on the other side but down. 3 and 6 are alternate angles because 3 is on, say, this left hand side and then 6 is on this right hand side. But there is one catch here. Although we say 3 and 6 are alternate angles, but we have to add one more term. So let me ask you, are they interior or exterior angles? So I mean, if you remember the concept we did like 2 minutes ago, interior angles are basically angles that lie in this region, right? Well, do 3 and 6 lie in this region? Yes, they do, certainly. So these are interior alternate angles. I mean, alternate because if they lie on either side, we could have taken 3 and 5, they would have been interior angles, but they would not have been alternate angles. Alternate means on different sides. So one's on the left, one's on the right, kind of thing. So similarly, for another interior alternate angle pair is 4 and 5. So 4 is on the right, 5 is on the left, and they are both interior angles. So 4 and 5 are again interior alternate angles. Okay, but you can do this for exterior angle also. I mean, why should we only be partial to interior angles? Let's do this with exterior angles too. So take angle 1. What's the alternate of this? Well, alternate side is, because 1 is on the left, alternate side is this side on the right. But we look at the lower angle, right? We go crisscross. We did 3 and 6. We go crisscross like this for alternate angles. So we can go crisscross like this. So 1 and 8 are alternate angles definitely because we went crisscross, but they're not interior, right? They're outside this shaded region. So they're exterior alternate angles. Same thing for 2 and 7 now. You can go crisscross, making them alternate angles. But since they're exterior, that makes them exterior alternate angles again. So I hope I made myself clear with this, because we actually need to apply these, and there are going to be useful properties with all these terms that we've learned. So this part was only to learn the terms and classify angles. Now it's time to extend properties with them. So see you on the fresh page. So now let's move on to some properties, and before dealing with the properties of the terms we just learned, I would like to explain two important, very nice and basic properties that you should know, but in any case I'm revising it. So first property is a linear pair, or you can call it a supplementary angle property. And for the vernacular translation, this is called Purak cone. So this says that if you have two angles lying on a straight line, and you should know this, that the total angular measure of a straight line is 180 degrees. So if you break this up now into two angles like we've done here, so the straight line of P is broken up into A and B on top. So A will be some part of 180 and B will be some part of 180, but both of them will add up to 180, because this total measure of A plus B is 180 degrees. So A plus B is 180 degrees in this diagram. Similarly, look at the lower side. C plus D is equal to 180 degrees, because they are a linear pair. They lie on a same straight line. They're supplementary angles. Same thing over here. E plus F is again equal to 180 degrees, and G plus H is also equal to 180 degrees. So this is one important, very important actually. I mean, most of the questions require this property. And one more observation, we did this horizontally. We can do this vertically also. So that's to say that even this S is a straight line, right? So look at A and C. A plus C will also equal 180 degrees, because they lie on this straight line of S. Same thing with E and G, and same thing with B and D, and same thing with F and H. So you see why this property is so useful. It gives us so many different relations. We have this vertical relations of supplementary angles. We have these horizontal relations of supplementary angles. That's what is an excellent property to know. A very good fundamental property of lines. Now another basic property that I would like to discuss before starting with the new terms is vertically opposite angles. Vertically opposite angles, which, if you want to look at the vernacular translation, is Viruddha cone. This property is simply that if you have angles crisscrossing each other, so if you take A, if you cross A like this, crisscross downwards or upwards, it can be any place. We can't go upwards, there's nothing up. We can only crisscross down. If we cross down, we get D, right? That is equal to A. Same thing over here, B and C are equal. Crisscross B and C. B is C, B is equal to C. You crisscross E and H, E is equal to H, and then you crisscross F and G, so F is equal to G. So these are again nice identities that will help us later on, nice properties that will help us. So crisscrossing angles like this. So now, using the terms that we just learnt about, I'm going to extend them and make properties of them, and these properties only hold true as long as these lines are parallel. Okay, you could have another transversal, say T, and even those would have to be parallel for, again, those identities to be applied horizontally, but we're applying them vertically for now. You'll see a more detailed example later when I'm discussing examples. Okay, so now let's talk about the corresponding angles and what relations do they have with each other. So let's talk about corresponding angles, which are basically Sangat Kon, and what relation they hold as long as P is parallel to Q. So consider A. What's the alternate angle of A? Well, as I said, drop down one floor, E. Drop down one floor to the exact same position. You know, you don't drop down and then go underground. Then you started on top, you drop down one floor and you end on top. So A is equal to E because they two are alternate angles. Because if you want to say it this way, A and E are corresponding angles, and therefore they are equal. This equality is the property that only exists as long as P is parallel to Q. If P is not parallel to Q, then A and E will still be corresponding angles, but they won't be equal to each other. And you can do this for all pairs of corresponding angles. B is equal to F, you can say. C, again you drop down and then go underground because even C was hanging from P. So C is equal to G, and D is equal to H. Similarly, corresponding angles are equal as long as both these lines are parallel. Fair enough. And let's talk about interior and exterior alternate angles, because we discussed about corresponding angles. So interior alternate angles. First, let's look at the interior angle. Let's break this word. Let's look at what our interior angles are. C, D, E, and F are interior angles. Alternate. So if you take C, the alternate of C is basically obtained by, again, crossing. So C and F, you can see, are alternate because they lie on separate sides, and then crossing, as I said, as I just explained to you previously. So C and F are interior alternate. So C must be equal to F as long as, again, the same parallel condition, P is parallel to Q. Because if P is not parallel to Q, they will still be interior alternate angles, but they won't be equal to each other. Okay, so C and F, and then D and E again, similarly. D and E, because they are again interior alternate angle pairs. That was for interior alternate angles. You can say the same thing about exterior alternate angles. So what are the exterior alternate angle pairs here? A and then cross A, you get H. Because those are exterior angles, they are not in this region of PQ. So A and H are exterior alternate angles, and as long as P is parallel to Q, both of them will be equal. A will equal H. Similarly for the other B and G. B and G are exterior alternate angles, and they'll be equal to each other as long as both the lines are parallel. Because if the lines weren't parallel, A and H and B and G would still be exterior alternate angle pairs, but they won't be equal to each other. So this condition, it will mostly be given in the question, but if it's not, in more general scenarios, you'll have to show this parallelism property, or I don't know, you can't make this assumption without knowing for sure that both the lines are parallel. So just keep this in mind. And if you ask me, the best way to understand a new concept is to solve examples. So we have a PQ are given to be parallel. See, as I told you, we will be given some things. So this is actually a hint how to apply the properties. And T and S are the transversals. Hope you can see that. And they're telling us to find the values of x and y. Okay, so let's break it up now. We have a 40. How can we get close to x? There is like a big gap between 40 and x. What do we do to get closer to x? Let's define another variable. I don't know, just call it alpha for now. So what you do is, notice that 40 degrees and alpha are corresponding angles, because notice if you drop one floor down from P, you end up at alpha, one floor lower on Q. So alpha and this angle of 40 degrees are corresponding angles. Notice that. And if you still have problems understanding the concept of corresponding angles, please go back and look back to the previous part when I explained this. I know this is a new concept, and don't be overwhelmed if you get confused. Because believe me, even I got confused the first time I learned about this. So alpha and 40 are corresponding angles. Fair enough. And can we say they are equal? Why can't we? Because P and Q are parallel, right? So since P and Q are parallel, this means that these corresponding angles should be equal to each other, right? By the property. So alpha should equal 40 degrees, but that is not our answer. Alpha is a variable we introduced. So this is 40 degrees, right? We just showed that. But is there any relation we can draw from alpha and x? Notice that they are on one straight line of t. So alpha and x are supplementary angles because they lie on a straight line. Purak cone basically. So they should sum to 180 degrees, right? Because the total angular sum of a line is 180. So alpha plus x should equal 180 degrees. We know alpha to be 40. So x plus 40 degrees is equal to 180. Now just subtract 40 from both sides. We have 180 degrees minus 40 degrees. This is 140 degrees. That's the value of x we needed to find. Nice. So now let's go ahead and solve for y using a similar approach. So now, instead of using corresponding angles, we can still use corresponding angles, but I just want to show you a more variety of properties that we can use. So let's call this beta. Notice that beta and y are interior alternate angles because both of them are inside this region enclosed by P and Q. That's why they're interior. And then you have a crisscross thing from going from left to right like this. So they're alternate angles. So y and beta are interior alternate angles. And can we say they are equal? Why can't we? Because again, we know that P is parallel to Q, so we can say that y is equal to beta. Fine, so y is equal to beta. But is there a relation between beta and this 70 degree angle that we have here? Well, notice again, like this alpha and x case, these again form a linear pair. They're supplementary angles. So beta and 70 degrees are a linear pair. Or you can say supplementary angles. So they must sum 280 degrees, which is the total angular sum of that entire line. So this means beta is 110 degrees. And since y is equal to beta, this means y is also 110 degrees. So y is nothing but 110 degrees. So that's, we solve. X is 140 degrees. Y is 110 degrees. We solved the problem. And believe me, writing these reasons are extremely important because this will enable the examiner to know your thought process and whether you understood the entire concepts of parallel lines and transversals and using their properties. Especially this case of parallel, P is parallel to Q, because if you don't write it, then it will be like you're just supposing that, you know, every corresponding angle is equal to each other. So writing this is extremely important. Let's do another example to just clear off any remaining doubts you may have. See you on the fresh page. Now this example is slightly more challenging than the previous, but don't worry. There are two sets of parallel relations that we have. So that is a hint that we can not only go from up to down using corresponding angle properties, but go from left to right using corresponding angle properties. Because P and Q are parallel, just like L and M are parallel to each other. So we need to find A, B and C, three unknowns, A, B and C that we need to find. So let's make this angle, one angle that's really close to A, again call it alpha. Notice from left to right, the 80-degree angle and alpha are corresponding. If you were wondering, corresponding was, you know, going from up to down, dropping down one floor, because we have two transversals now, we can have a transversal property like this. So 80 degree, if you don't think of it as dropping down now, but sliding. In this case, sliding, you started from, say, this right hand side of line P, you slide to the right, you end up to the right hand side of Q. So these angles are corresponding angles. If you want to think about it another way, it's almost like you take this section and you just move this over here. So, you know, you can superimpose these sections on each other, if you want to think about it that way. And in the place of 80, you have alpha. So it's some sort of spatial logic. You can think that, you know, 80 falls in place of alpha, alpha falls in place of 80, so alpha must be equal to 80. But that must be equal to is only true because P and Q are again parallel lines. Since P and Q are parallel lines, then only we can say that alpha is equal to 80 degrees, because even if they weren't parallel, we could have said that 80-degree angle and alpha are corresponding, but this equality is because they are parallel. So alpha is 80 degrees, but we need to find A. So is there any relation between alpha and A? Notice that alpha and A are linear pairs. They're supplementary angles because they lie on the same line, and their sum therefore must equal the total angular value of the line, which is 180 degrees. Alpha we know is 80, so A is 180 degrees minus the 80 degrees of alpha. So A is nothing but 100 degrees. We found A now to be 100 degrees. Fine, let's go on with B. So notice here, notice A, you know, let's go from known to unknown. So notice A, because we just found that out, 100 degrees. Call this angle beta. Notice that A and beta are again corresponding angles, because if you drop down, where A is, you have beta just one floor down. So they're almost like neighbors, you can say in one way. So A and beta are again corresponding angles. But are they equal? Again, for equality we needed the parallel condition, right? Notice that L and M, the concerned lines, are parallel. So L is parallel to M. We had this from the start. Therefore, A must be equal to beta, and A is 100 degrees, so beta must be equal to 100 degrees. But that's not all. Beta is something we introduced. We still need to find B. So notice that B and beta are a linear pair. They lie on a same straight line. So B and beta are a linear pair. So they must sum to 180 degrees. So beta plus B is equal to 180 degrees. Beta is 100, so B must be 80 degrees. Just basic arithmetics. So B is 80 degrees. 80 degrees. We still have to find C now. So we can use this 80-degree angle and have this angle, call this angle gamma. Notice that 80-degree and this angle gamma are corresponding angles again. See, that's why I told you corresponding angles are so important. It's almost like, we don't even need exterior alternate angles. We can just trivialize everything using corresponding angles. And that's a great thing because you have to learn or understand less properties. So this is called working smarter rather than working harder. So 80-degree and this gamma are corresponding angles. 80-degree and gamma are corresponding angles. But are they equal again? So we need to check for L and M to be parallel, and indeed they are. L and M are parallel. Therefore, gamma is equal to 80 degrees. Nice. We found gamma to be 80 degrees. But is there a relation between gamma and C, the angle that we need to find? Notice that we can go crisscross like this. So they are vertically opposite angles. That's why I explained, that's why I told you that knowing vertical opposite angles is really important. This is why. And the only things that if you notice we've been applying are corresponding angles, linear pairs, and now vertically opposite angles. So these are the only basic properties you need to know. By defining variables, you can actually avoid confusing yourself using some extra properties like interior alternate, exterior alternate. If it confuses you, you can just stick to these three of corresponding angles, linear pairs, and vertically opposite angles. You can solve any question with these three properties. So since gamma and C are vertically opposite angles, they must be equal to each other, and there is no condition of parallelism here because they're just on the same line. So depending on any other line to be parallel to this line M that they lie on makes no sense. So we don't need any condition of parallelism here. So vertically opposite angles are always equal to each other. Always. We don't need a condition here like we needed over here for parallelism. And gamma is 80, so C is 80 degrees. C is 80 degrees. So we've successfully solved our problem. A is 100 degrees, B is 80 degrees, and C is again 80 degrees. And you can reason why B and C are equal because if you notice B and C, they are corresponding angles this way also. And P and Q are parallel, so both of them have to be equal. And everything is satisfied. We looked at C from this perspective of vertically opposite angles. You could have also looked at B and C from this corresponding angles moving from right to left, sliding from right to left instead of dropping down floors or going up floors. So it makes sense. All of our properties hold true and we've successfully solved our problems with logical values which are correct. This is just checking. Corresponding angles is proof that all our angles are right. You can check this. You can check your answers like this if say you're not confident or something. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. You learned a lot, and please ensure to practice a lot because all of these concepts are only going to remain concepts unless you practice something. So please guys, don't take this video as the only thing in before your exam or something. Go on to practice a lot. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Recommend me to your friends who have trouble understanding this concept because I get it because again during this quarantine period drawing these geometric diagrams and explaining this rather basic yet seemingly challenging concept of geometry might seem a challenge. So you can spread the video to all of your friends who are facing this problem, and in the meantime stay home, stay safe, have a fantastic day and peace out. And one more thing before closing off, if you have any topics that you are encountering difficulty in, please write down in the comment section. It's always open for you guys. So yeah, at your discretion.